And welcome back. Another week has flown by and has placed all of you here with us tonight on This Uncanny Earth. Episode 332. 332 of these tonight. Our very own intern over here with his Dragon Ball shirt on, which is pretty cool because I was just watching Broly with my son today, and fantastic Dragon Ball movie. Probably one of my favorites. Trio Might's the best, but Broly's up there. We have the intern. He's going to be giving us some mysterious location. Well, he's not the intern anymore. My goodness gracious, I have slipped. I'm going to be fired.
I'm Metatron now.
He's going to be discussing mysterious locations. And of course, we got Spider, who linked up with myself for an upcoming adventure project that I'm doing. It's going to be a really good one. Hope you guys are ready for that. That won't be coming soon. All I got to do is start editing it. I've got the 4 videos I needed. We'll be getting some more things rolling. We'll make the announcement soon. Let's see what else.
The affiliates?
The affiliates. We'll let Spider talk to us about the affiliates and sponsorships and all that beautiful bean footage.
I'm going to keep it quick before I turn it over to Steven for the big show. But for those of you interested in a sponsorship package, we do have 3 levels on the website. You can go monthly, you can go in chunks of 6 months, or you can go in chunks of a year. The more you go for, the cheaper it is. If you go monthly, it's a set fee every month. If you go for 6 months, it takes a few off of that, so that you end up getting some time free. And if you go for the year, you end up getting a few months free. So what you get with that is you get the opportunity to suggest various things for us for topics. You get to be a part of the conversation on some level, not necessarily on the show itself, but you do get to have a say in some of the things that we're talking about, some of the things that we're interested in, and we can arrange future topics around things that you want to hear specifically, as long as it's not something so controversial that YouTube's going to instantly kick us off the minute we start talking about it. And you can cancel at any time. There's no obligation. And there was something else I was going to say about it, and I'm going to mumble until I get to it. You're also going to have a special spot on the website where it'll list the sponsors. Unless you wish to remain anonymous, you can tell us, hey, I just want to have an anonymous sponsorship. That's fine too. But if you want the world to know that you are a sponsor and you are proud of it, your name will be listed prominently, and we will thank you for that. And any other nice perks that I can think of along the way as we go. All of those costs go towards running the website. They go towards running the merch shop. They go towards funding various projects that we're doing. None of it goes to sit in our pockets to fund my alcohol addiction or for anything else. So just so you're aware where your money is going, and if you like, I can also provide ledgers and invoices for that if you're interested. So, and all that said and done, it's time for Steven.
All right. Before I even get started, I wanted to congratulate Spider. Very nice slugs you've got there, sir. I like it. Do you understand the compliment?
No.
Oh, okay.
Slugs? What?
Yeah. Okay. I've been I've been learning a lot about computer coding recently, and I learned that that little / and all the words after it are called slugs. You have your main website, and then the / and all the stuff after it is called the slug. So it's very nice because you know how sometimes you go to those websites and it's like a bunch of weird random symbols. Yours is actually set up very nice with words and dashes.
I have good templates. Yeah. I have very good templates. I don't do any of the programming myself.
You know, I had to get that out of the way.
It's very clean. It's very nice and clean.
So tonight, we're going to start talking about many mysterious locations. We got about 5, maybe 6 planned tonight. But I don't have very much info on that last one, so it's more like a bonus. Just, something you can look up on your own. But we're going to start with Antarctica, one of my favorites, and it was one of the earlier ones I did when I first started the show with you guys. It is one of the most mysterious continents on Earth. It is completely covered in ice, and this ice, it goes like 6 miles down. The ice is so thick. And they pinged the ice with, they were looking for radioactivity, like some satellite stuff. And they were looking up, but they got the they got the sensors they were looking for, the readings, but the readings weren't up above. The readings were down below the ice. So what I want to know is what's down below that ice that's setting off these readers, to detect all this stuff. And, before I get into some of the conspiracy theories, would you guys like to tell your own opinions on this and maybe tell us what you think is most interesting about Antarctica before we get too deep into it? Go ahead and you go first, Spider.
All right. Well, there is a lot to say because there are a lot of theories about it. And I know Mr. Robert down there is always rubbing his hands; he's ready to go. But I'm just going to touch on a couple things. Because of the layer of ice that's up there, it is extremely difficult to know what Antarctica was like in the past because we have no evidence, particularly other than the flat ice sheet. We don't have.
It's very Reese map.
Don't get ahead of me there. Come on, man. It's your show, but I'm still going to smack you for it. So I'm going to get to that in a minute.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
As far as modern views of it, most of our modern idea of it has just been the ice fields pretty much forever. We've done core samples and we've done some digging and we've been able to pull through plant samples and various other things that tell us the possibility of what it was like in the past. And there are, as you mentioned, ancient sources of not necessarily questionable, but arguable, depending on your outlook about how accurate they were, because we always assumed that people back then didn't know what they were doing, that they were primitive, that they had no knowledge of anything, and that they just made up a bunch of stuff and it was all interpreted. But I think we're missing the point with that because they did try their best with what they had. And like the Piri-Reis map, which shows land masses that aren't covered by ice, whether you believe that or not, I think it's a viable explanation. I think there is more under there. The issue, though, is in order to actually get down there and see it in a scientific way that proves or disproves various theories, you would have to get rid of the ice, and getting rid of the ice would be absolutely disastrous for the planet as we know it right now. That doesn't mean for sure that everything would be problematic, but as we're aware of it, it would be problematic because we don't know any different. Excuse me. But there's also a lot of other things about how there's potentially secret bases under the ice from World War II. There's secret alien bases. There's this, there's that. There's a lot of things to say about it. And there's no direct evidence for any of that for sure, as far as what we know. But, it's interesting theories. As I'm going to finish up here, since I'm talking too much, my theory is that it is just another great ancient land mass that had over time been covered up by ice because of the various ice ages and things. And while it would be nice to see it under there, I don't think we're going to find too much secret under there because of the destructive power of all of that ice. We know what the glaciers did rolling through for the ice age. We know they just smashed and crushed everything in their path. So if there were civilizations or buildings or anything of that kind, I tend to think as the ice formed, it probably eliminated most traces of that. Not all of it, but you're not likely, I don't think, to find a full city waiting for you at the bottom. But that's personal opinion.
And before we continue any further, I would just like to make a disclaimer that all of our opinions are our own, and we are not claiming that anything we state here is fact. We are just saying that these are interesting things that we like to discuss and think about. Now, Spider actually touched on some interesting things that I'm going to get into here in a minute, but first, I'm going to let Rob speak his mind. Oh, if he can get his mic up. Can't hear you.
There it is.
There you go.
Hey, Jason, what's up, buddy? How have you been? I hope everything is good with you, sir. How have you been? I hope everything is great. If you have not checked him out, you got to go check him out on YouTube. The Anunnaki series is fire. is fire.
Speaking of which, we're going to be talking about them tonight.
So I've long held the theory that underneath that ice sheet is a, like Spider said, ancient landmass.
I
Right.
agree.
Also, congratulations. That is awesome. We're gonna have to get you back on the show. So what I think it is, there's something under there. Okay. There's a reason why all the countries in the world basically go there for research
Peace.
and nothing really happens. It's not, something that they're going to get out of pocket for. And all of a sudden, hey, I remember you from the G1 conference or, the G3 conference or whichever one it is. Is it G6? Where the global leaders all get together. What is that called?
There's a G7 and there's a G20.
Okay.
But the G7 we just had recently. They just had one of those.
So it's not like, hey, I saw you at the G7 talking that smack here in Antarctica. There's a reason we're there. And they've been studying it for such a long time. I don't think it's just about polar bears and penguins.
I heard about that.
I did not. That's interesting.
Yeah. So
while I don't think it's the ice walls and such, I do. There is a theory I have that that's where they would have trapped the fallen angels.
I
down
agree.
In the pits. But there's another place called Duradol, which is a desert as well. But it just and listen, and this is like Steven said, this is conjecture. So I can't prove any of what I'm about to say. It's just a hypothesis. Okay. If you look at Dante's Inferno, the worst place, the worst circle of hell was a giant ice lake, right? Because of betrayal. And if betrayal is the worst sin that there is, and you bury somebody for said sin, burying them there would be the optimal place. Now we got to factor into the flood narrative of all of this as well, because the flood narrative is probably what changed all the land masses, and then whatever happened with the Tower of Babel. Those two things did something to the earth. So, like I said, there's a lot there to unpack. It's your show. I'm not trying to hijack it. So there you go.
Now you're good. That was good. Now I wanted to mention what Jason is talking about in the chat over here. There was recently a person, he said his name is Ethan Guo, or Guo, sorry if I mispronounced that. But there was a kid, I read an article about it the other day, and he flew to Antarctica, and he got arrested. And, there's a bunch of people in the there were a bunch of people in the article comments, talking about it and, debating back and forth. And they were like, well, he went to a restricted airspace. Of course he was going to get arrested. He didn't report it or anything. And I'm like, okay, that's fair, but why is Antarctica so secretive? He's lucky he didn't get shot down. And, I have a personal Mandela effect that I'd like to mention about Antarctica before we continue.
Please.
I grew up under the impression that Antarctica was highly restricted, only used for science and military purposes, and had absolutely no tourism at all whatsoever. Like the average people like you and me, we could not go to Antarctica. That was not allowed. And even the scientists had to get approval like months, if not years in advance before they could go to Antarctica. And what's really interesting to me is recently on TikTok, I saw people talking about going to Antarctica on cruise ships and, kayaking. And I'm like, nah, that ain't real. And I literally got on there and commented, and I was like, yeah, that's interesting ideas, but no, that doesn't happen. And they challenged me. So I looked it up, and well, apparently you can just go kayaking in Antarctica now. So that was interesting.
Remember that Antarctica is a giant landmass.
Yeah.
So there's probably parts of it that are cordoned off for environmental research, right? If we're just going to be like no conspiracies involved, a lot of that is environmental research. It's a giant ice sheet with living microbes and things like that in the water. So you're going to have areas that are off limits. But if there is a tourism side, obviously they're not going to put you in an area where you can disturb the ecology of the air of the land that they're working on. Other than that, it's a huge, You could see it from Argentina. So
Yeah.
it's a very huge landmass. So yeah, of course I could see tourism. If somebody can make a buck off of it, they will make a buck off of it. Spider,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I just looked it up. I looked up the young man's name, and it's interesting. It doesn't initially jump out as something nefarious to me. Um, I'm going to give you guys a quick rundown. I got it from a website called the Prime Timer, which who knows, but it seems like a well-written news article, and everything seems to be fine. They cite CNN and a few other places, which you can take or leave, whichever you want to do. But the young man he's in the midst of attempting to fly solo to all 7 continents to raise money for cancer research, and he's using a Cessna C-182 to do so. Um, he
What kind of research?
Cancer research.
That's Yep.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, and I know
Yep.
you guys are already thinking about it, but reading the article doesn't. Like I said, hold on. He was detained when he made an unauthorized landing at the Teniente Marsh airfield in Antarctic territory controlled by Chile, as per Dexerto, which seems to be a Chilean newspaper. The sticking point that they say here, according to CNN and the regional prosecutor of Magallanes and Chilean Antarctica, whose name is Christian Crisoto Rifo, he said that the accused provided false information to the Aeronautical Authority. He submitted a flight plan indicating that he was going to fly over the city of Punta Arenas. However, he continued toward Antarctica without informing anyone and without any authorization, landing at the airfield of Lieutenant Rodolfo Marsh Base in Chilean Antarctic territory. And he goes on to say, with this behavior, the accused seriously endangered the safety of air traffic to Antarctica and the Magallanes region. The accused not only violated the aeronautical code, but also multiple national and international regulations regarding routes to Antarctica and across to the access to the White Continent. So the official story, whether you want to believe it or not, is that he gave them a flight plan that did not include going to Antarctica. And then rather than follow that flight plan, he went to Antarctica anyway because it's on the list of 7 continents. So it doesn't sound like, according to them, that he went there to try to find certain information or to violate anything, but he did break a lot of laws. Airspace traffic laws can be pretty severe because airspace routes are planned out by computers
Accordingly.
very, very tightly, not only just for safety so that nobody crashes into each other, but also for military things, because you go into somebody's airspace and they don't like your country or they don't know who you are and they're expecting trouble with one of their neighbors, they're not going to think twice necessarily. If they can't identify you, you're done. And then that causes an incident with the home country that you came from because they might not have checked into it enough.
Yep.
So, but yes, Ethan, as Jason says, Ethan Guo is an American. He is currently in Chile awaiting a hearing on his situation, which it says would have already taken place by now, according to this article, July 11th. I don't have a more.
Yeah, that's what I had heard as well.
Yeah, he has to remain in the region of Chile, even though he can be allowed to leave Antarctica, as per the news outlet. So, again, if you want to read more into that, I don't know. There's not a whole lot.
There's a lot of finer details that make it a little complicated.
Yeah, it on face value, it looks pretty like. And I don't think he meant to do anything that was going to cause an incident. I think he just thought, well, what are the odds that somebody's going to be flying to Antarctica? I've got this tiny plane. I've already got my route. I might as well keep on going and hit my extra continent. You know, maybe he didn't expect the consequences to be that severe. Whether there was anything there for him to discover that might have been like, oh, you shouldn't have seen this, I don't know. I don't think they would have given him more freedom of movement afterwards. I think he would initially just be locked there and not allowed to leave Antarctica. So the fact that he's able to move around, just not allowed to leave the region, is a point in favor that it probably wasn't as bad as it sounds. But again, I don't know. This is just the official story. It's a second, third-hand account from CNN to Dexerto to this site called Prime Timer. So for lack of any more information, that's what we've got.
All right. So next, I'm going to go through a few things real quick here and end up with Antarctica. Because, most people already know about most of this stuff. But there's one thing I'm going to add at the end. So I'm going to go through a few things real quick and then slow down before we continue to the next topic. So as everyone probably knows by now, Antarctica has been linked to a bunch of Nazi bases, ancient civilizations such as Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu. I'll get to that and my personal theory on that here in a minute. Alien artifacts, pyramids under the ice. That's what a lot of people suggest that radiation is coming from, is from the pyramids under the ice. And they have entrances in the ocean. And there's even some people who believe the Ark of the Covenant might be there. And that's one conspiracy theory around why they're so eager to be at peace with the international treaties in Antarctica. Some people suggest that Antarctica is a wall or barrier around a flat Earth, part of the flat Earth theory, which James is a fan of, or a gateway to Hollow Earth, which was part of the Admiral Byrd's Operation High Jump flight book, and his personal journal, but they have debunked that, and they have proven that it was a little bit exaggerated, because rather than just saying there's nothing to see here, there's a little bit of ice, they made some stuff up, to be honest. So that one's already debunked, so don't worry too much about that. It was governed by the Antarctic Treaty, which we discussed earlier. That was in the year 1959. Ancient meteorites and DNA fragments have been found beneath the ice, sparking rumors of hidden fossils and relics, which relates to the ancient civilization stuff. And there is an axis of rotation shift theories suggesting that Antarctica was once tropical, which we mentioned briefly a minute ago with the Perry Reese map and the core samples of the Earth, proving that regardless of what anyone believes, it is a fact that Antarctica was at one point in time a warm tropical climate, because we have core samples of the Earth to prove that. Like, that's not just conspiracy theory. We have scientific evidence to prove that. And to end it off, my favorite theory of all, some people believe that there could possibly be ancient Anunnaki DNA seed vaults buried beneath the ice, and that they were actually governed by the ancient civilization of Lemuria, or Mu for short. And I personally believe that if we are to believe in aliens and ancient civilizations like Atlantis and Lemuria, I used to believe that it was Atlantis, but Rob, our buddy Rob, has convinced me of the Eye of the Sahara and the concentric circles, that is where I believe Atlantis really was now. He has convinced me, I found some stuff, and I changed my mind. We're allowed to do that, right? And so the Anunnaki vaults, though, is very interesting, and they believe, and some people claim that Mu was actually in charge of guarding these vaults, and when the whole war thing went down, they got buried. The entire civilization of Mu and these vaults got buried under the ice, and some people believe that the ice will melt by 2030 to reveal some structures of these ancient civilizations that will bring about new technology and perhaps a scholarly burst of people who are interested in scholarly pursuits. So I'm excited to look forward to that. And as for the whole, water melting and destroying the planet thing, yes, the water is, the ice is melting and the water is, it will become dangerous. But I don't think it's going to get to Noah's Ark level flooding. I think it will be dangerous, but I personally don't believe it will get to that level. And as for the global warming, some people say, believe in it, some people don't. But the fact of the matter is, regardless of whether you believe that it's humans' responsibility or not, it is a cycle of the Earth that happens every once in a while, and it's just something that we're going to have to deal with. So, Spider, did you have anything to add?
I think I have to add that it's Rob's turn. Right?
What?
Isn't it Rob's turn?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
one last thing, I guess, since I got you, I'm going to steal a few more minutes. 'Cause I appreciate that. The vaults theory
got
that there
excited, I'm
are
sorry.
seed vaults under there isn't particularly out of question, because we have a vault in the Arctic called the Doomsday Seed Vault, where we have a bunch of seeds and various things that we keep, and that was almost in some danger not too long ago. Like, it got something happened, like an earthquake or something, and then they had to go in and do some repairs, but everything seems to be fine. But so that's not a crazy theory particularly.
Okay, Rob, sorry. I got very excited.
I'm going to go ahead and speak now, if that's okay. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Wait, I got something else.
Well,
Oh, wait, so I got something else. Hey, I got something. Go ahead.
the sass level is through the roof today on this episode. I can already tell with this nonsense. The people I work with, I swear. No, the concept to me, it's interesting enough, but that's pre-flood herbage, flora and fauna. And we don't know if pre-flood flora and fauna would survive in this day and age.
True.
We don't know, the terraforming that happened. Some people believe that the flood was terraforming. The Garden of Eden was terraforming. If that's the case, then those plants wouldn't survive. And maybe they're growing them in a lab. I don't know. It gets to a point where you can't believe everything you read. You know what I mean? And you have to start thinking semi-logically, right?
You can't
can
even
think
trust
a
the
little.
science sometimes.
Well, there's a lot of things you can't trust that they tell you to trust. That's just, to the victor writes history, so to speak. And what I think would be interesting is if they did have pre-flood flora and fauna, how are they still keeping it alive? So that's all I've got for that.
All right. Now, next, we're going to move on to another favorite of mine, Roanoke. This one's a little bit shorter. This one won't take too long. It is the lost colony vanished from Roanoke Island in the late 1500s with only the word Croatoan carved into a tree. No bodies, no conflict, just total vanishing. And this was one of the earlier civilizations when the English had first started to colonize the colonies. Sir Walter Raleigh's colony, the first English settlement in the New World, the years were 1585 to 1590. Governor John White returned to find it deserted after he'd been out at sea for many years. He came back and there was just nobody there. They didn't know what happened. Now, some people believe they may have assimilated with local tribes, but if they had, why did they leave all their stuff behind? Why didn't they take any of their clothes or, personal items with them? Some people think it might have been mass abduction, time displacement, or simulation reset. Those are some interesting theories, but there's obviously problems with all of those. Mass abduction, that's just a catch-all at this point. Everyone says that about everything. Time displacement, like a temporal portal of some sort, but that doesn't really make any sense either because they've never shown up anywhere else throughout history. And, typically with stories about time displacement, they come back eventually. And simulation reset, well, I'm not even going to get into that one. Because I fully admit I'm a little bit biased on the simulation theory, so I'm not even going to bother with that one. And some people have suggested that it could even be linked to supernatural events, such as Lovecraftian or alien interference, which sounds a little silly, but I don't know. The thing is, we may never know what happened to this colony because there's very little evidence, and they just kind of disappeared without a trace. So let's go ahead and start with Rob this time since we skipped him last time. What are your thoughts on Roanoke?
Roanoke is just cut and paste. They went and they mingled and they assimilated into another tribe or society. That's it.
Why do you think they didn't take their stuff, though?
Why would you? If you found another place to assimilate to, why would you?
All right.
If you're going to go get new stuff, or maybe the society they assimilated into are like, no, you can't bring your material possessions. We already have stuff. We don't need more stuff. I don't think it was anything crazy. I don't think it was anything wild. I think this is one of the few times where I think it's just they assimilated into another culture. That's
Yeah.
what I think it is.
And Spider, what do you think?
But I did want to also mention. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
I was going to roll with it. The while we don't know exactly what happened, we do have a lot of historical ideas of the fact that it was a very difficult region to be in certain parts of the year, especially in the winter. The winters were a lot worse than what they were used to, where they came from, and I think it's a case of them not being fully prepared and a bunch of just freak accidents and things pushing them to have to do what they had to do to survive. Because part of the story is that when they were dropped off, they were told, we're going to go get supplies and we're going to be back, which implies that perhaps they knew that they would need more supplies than what they already had because they don't know the land yet. They don't know what you can scavenge for. They don't know what you can go out and eat safely. They don't know what you can go out and catch. It's totally different. So the boat went to get more supplies, got held up, took longer than usual. The colony goes through what it's got. It can't keep things repaired. It can't keep things mended. People are getting sick. People are possibly dying. And so they did what was the only thing that they figured they could do was they talked to their neighbors who were the Croatoan Indian tribes. And they said, hey, we need help. Can you help us? Is there something we can do? And the tribes were probably like, sure, but you got to come with us. We don't stay in one spot. We move around. If you want us to keep helping you, we're going to leave at some point. So if you stick around here, we can't help you. So faced with that, I think the only option was, all right, well, let's go. We don't have room for all of our stuff in the tribe here. So let's break down what we can break down, scavenge what we have that we can reuse, and then just leave the rest. And I think because they didn't see any other option, they didn't know if the ship was going to come back because it hadn't come back yet. Maybe they figured nobody was going to come back. So they didn't think to leave somebody behind to say anything or send somebody back. They just figured, you know what, this is our life now. We're either going to make it or we're not. In a more fictional kind of fantastical kind of sense, there's an interesting story about it in a book that I've mentioned a couple times. It's a very extremely difficult read, not necessarily just for the content, but because of the structure and because of just how it's done. It's fascinating. It's really interesting, but it is very difficult. It's called House of Leaves. And in that story, or in the book, the story of Roanoke is that in some places in the world, there's spaces that you go into that are not really here, but are kind of someplace else. It's long, empty, dark corridors of gray nothing, and they continually go on in different directions. And the more you walk, the farther it gets, and the more twisted and maze-like it gets, eventually till you can't find your way out. And
sounds like the back rooms.
Kind of. It was probably an early blueprint for that idea. And there's supposedly a creature that lives down there that you can't see, but it'll close up the corridors on you and catch you, and then you're done. And the bulk of that story takes place in a house that these people have bought, where a corridor opens up in one of their closets that is too long for the closet. It doesn't go to another land. It just goes to an extra long corridor and then stops. Wow. And then over time, that expands into a longer corridor that turns into a maze, and the dad gets lost in there and everything like that. But they coincide that with the story that Roanoke supposedly had a similar situation, and that's where all the colonists went. That they went down into the earth to explore and disappeared completely. But that's fictional, of course. It's a fun read. It is also a very difficult read, and there's at least one part that I had to skip. And this is a trigger warning. I'm not going to mention specifics, but there's a spot about a dog, and being a person who likes animals, I didn't like it. Didn't like it one bit. Yeah. But it's a small section, but it just, and I get why it was in there.
Yeah.
But if anybody else is not into that kind of stuff, it was upsetting.
Yeah.
To me. But the rest of the book was good. I enjoyed it, and it's partially relevant.
We'll see. You guys made some very good points tonight, and I'm just like, I remembered this being such a big mystery when I was a kid, and I'm like, you guys just solved it just like that. Why was this such a big mystery for so long?
Because they kept finding new information. That's why. A lot of the evidence didn't come out until much later. I think they just found something like a year or two ago.
They had to do a lot of forensic things with new carbon dating and stuff. They didn't have all that before. They've actually found bits and pieces that got left behind now.
Yeah.
Where they didn't before because.
Oh yeah, I saw that on YouTube like a month or two ago.
Yeah.
So new information out of there all the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So next up, we got another fairly short one. Oak Island. This is located off Nova Scotia. It is home to the infamous Money Pit, which they had a whole entire TV show about on, what was it? The History Channel, I think? Yeah. And the story goes that it was allegedly booby-trapped, but contained treasures or secrets. The legends claim it was Templar artifacts, Shakespeare's original manuscripts. Who cares about those? Or even the Holy Grail are supposedly buried there. And I've heard some people say Captain Kidd buried some treasure there. There's all sorts of stuff, but nobody really knows what's there. The excavations have been going on since 1795. There have been multiple collapses and mysterious traps, such as flooding tunnels and bores, which have led to rumors of curses. But that's just people trying to be like, don't dig there. There's curses. Just so they can keep the treasure all for themselves because they believe there's a treasure there. Now, one of the popular theories is a hidden Masonic or Templar vault. The treasure may not be material. It could possibly be knowledge or a mirror of some sort. Not a literal mirror, but, like something to reflect knowledge back towards you, if that makes any sense. And it also, some people say it could possibly integrate a booby-trapped memory chamber that resets your mind if improperly accessed. Now, that's a fun theory. So let's go ahead and start with Rob. What do you think about this one?
Well, first things first, let me say this. I don't know. Oak Island just seems like it's more of a hole that nobody knows what's at the bottom of, so they keep trying to dig and dig and dig. And it's like, it's just a bunch of us.
It's a hole.
When we were kids, we just started digging a hole to see how far we could dig
I did that.
I don't think it's anything special. Anything that was found there, I think, is long since been gone, excavated. Now they're just like making drama out of it. Well, Bill almost fell down the hole. We didn't have enough security safety measures. We got to get safety measures on the hole. Somebody plug that hole so Bill doesn't fall back into it. It's such a weird show because, of course, we all get lulled into the idea of Oak Island. It's cool, right? It's an interesting story. But when they're still digging, bro, anything that you have found has been whisked away by the Smithsonian or whoever, whatever. I think, too, it could be a practical joke. Somebody's like, I'm just going to dig a hole and let's see what happens. I bet these idiots will fall for it. And they fell for it.
That totally sounds like something I would do.
See, so that's the thing we have to really understand about Oak Island. I thought it was cool, but then when the History Channel show came out, I was like, this is corny. Yep. Like, dude, it's a hole. It's a hole. It's a hole. Yep. And you can only dig so far down.
Mel's hole is much more interesting.
I don't think it's anything special. And even if it was, it's a hole. Like, you're not going to find what you're looking for in that hole. I think James is right. Whoever built it knew exactly what they were doing.
All right. Spider, what do you think?
It is a lot of interesting engineering that's there, which is why the speculation is so rampant. Because not only is it a straight shaft, no laughing. It's a show for families, remember? Family show. But at periodic locations, there are kind of like pallets. There's platforms that have been built into it at semi-regular intervals. And the other thing about it is, while they have not found any particular goods or any treasures or anything, they have found at least one empty trunk of the kind that you would use on like a ship of the time or for hauling some kind of goods that perhaps you could. It's the kind of trunk that you see in movies that holds the pirate gold and things like that. There wasn't anything in it. It was empty,
Yeah.
and it was molded. But that has fueled the speculation that it was pirate treasure, and maybe they actually came back and took it before.
I've heard that one.
Rather than
That's why I mentioned Captain Kidd.
But under that, there's still more layers, and they've never reached the bottom of all the layers because the farther down you go, it's filled with water, and you can't pump the water out. There's off the coast, there are incredibly long. I don't want to just say holes. They're tunnels. They're small. They're too small for a person
Chambers.
to go through. They're not even that. They're just it's
Cubby
small
holes.
shafts, I guess, and they go from the coast. Family show. It goes down the coast through the ground underneath the island through the
So
rock
the
of
long
the island,
shaft goes through the cubby holes.
and that's how the babies are made. Anyway, but they keep pouring water in, and they've found a few of these, which is why they know that they're there. And they've tried to plug them, and they've tried to be like, no, we don't want to get the water in. Maybe then we can pump the water out, but they haven't been able to find them all. A sluice is probably a good name for it, James. But it's just the more you think about it, you have to wonder, why is this such an elaborate thing? Why have it in a way that you know it's going to flood? Why keep putting the platforms in it if you just want to have a deep hole? Just why? And that's the thing. There might not be anything really important or amazing in there, but the real secret is the why. Why is it like that? Why did they have the platforms at the even space?
Because God said so.
Why do they want it to flood all the time? I mean, are they really protecting anything? Who knows? The thing about it is, when people say, oh, it could be this treasure, it could be this, you have to also say, well, it's salt water. Salt water is going to degrade certain things and preserve other things. So if you have something really precious that you want to protect, particularly, you want it to be immune to salt water, which limits what it could potentially be.
Yeah.
And the water, you can't see through it. It's not clear water. It comes in, it's filled with silt. It's filled with stuff coming in from the shore of the island, because as you go through the tunnel, it's picking up dirt, it's picking up rocks, it's picking up mud, all this stuff. So you can't see. And that's what's happened to people who've gone down there. They've gone down there, they've tried to look around, see what they do, and they've been down there either too long, or they've had an accident because they couldn't see what they were doing, got snagged on something. And it's been a series of just tragic, potentially avoidable accidents. And it's only made the situation worse, because the more you think about it, like, look at this foolproof protection system. There has to be something great down there. But this far along in time, I think it's long gone. I think whatever they were protecting has rotted away or something. And I think if you do finally manage to get to the bottom, there's going to be nothing to find. Which is
Makes
just
sense.
And I read about this as a kid. I was fascinated. I read about that, Easter Island, all the different mysterious places, and I was like, oh, it's great. There's got to be something down there. There's pirate treasure. There's whatever. But at this point, I don't think so. I would like to be wrong. I would love for there to be something really amazing that they find down there. But again, it has to be something that can resist salt water, which is going to eliminate any kind of books, any kind of knowledge. It's going to eliminate any kind of artifact level.
Yeah. Anything
item.
important.
It could be pirate gold, because potentially the gold could resist that for a certain amount of time. It could be ingots or something, but that's just riches. That's great. That's fun, but that's not fascinating. That's not what I want them to find. What I want them to find is not going to be down there, because it's not
knowledge
put up with that punishment. So as far as that goes, that's how I look at it. It's still a fascinating engineering question, and it's going to have a very unsatisfying answer.
Let's just, for the record, these gentlemen don't want the riches that are down there. I will take the riches. All right. These two are like, no,
I want to get paid.
No, it's
I
too
don't want to
late.
get paid.
You
I'm
had
just
your
saying.
opportunity. No, you get the old 18th century manuscript about cooking cheese. That's what you get. You get it. You like it. You
Buddha
can
would be
sell
Then
it.
proud.
you can sell that to people who will, like, you sell them the taste of the cheese, and then they'll
You just become a cheese baron.
cheesemonger. It's a cheesemonger.
Cheese baron. No, you're a cheese baron.
Theogorath.
Okay, let's go.
All right. So the moon is up next.
The
I have a personal
moon.
connection with the moon. I've always felt
Are you from there? I always thought you were from
yes.
there, like because you look moonish, and I
Yeah.
bet that's on your mother's side because your
Yeah.
mother was from the moon, is what you told
I
me.
swear I claim the moon as my home planet, which is why this is another, really interesting topic to me. But I'm going to try to get through this without ranting too much and keep it short and to the point. This is another one I could do a whole episode on, but we're going to keep it short. Moon anomalies include unnatural craters, perfectly synchronized rotation, ringing like a bell. Yeah, that's right. When the Apollo ship hit the moon, it rang like a bell for multiple hours. And it's possible that the moon is artificial. There's a lot of compelling evidence to support this theory, and personally, they've convinced me. Some people believe it was placed there by extraterrestrials to observe or influence Earth. That's also part of simulation theory, that the moon could be a simulation hub meant to influence and guide. Now, here's the historical facts. No conspiracies, just the truth. Apollo missions returned with strange footage, some of which has been redacted, and ancient cultures used to revere the moon, yet some myths claim it wasn't always in the sky. Some ancient cultures claim that the moon was not always in the sky, which would insinuate that it, regardless of whether it happened, artificially, naturally, whatever, the moon was brought here somehow by something. And there's just so much more I could go into, but like I said, I'm trying not to get too deep into it. So let's go ahead and start with Rob. What do you think about the moon? And have you ever heard of this hollow moon theory?
Well, let me tell you what I think about the moon. Okay. Tell you about these people. Moon people. No. The moon is an interesting aspect in that it's tidally locked to our country. Or
Perfect.
to our world. Sorry, not our country. It's just tidally locked to the United States.
And the
'cause
perfect
everybody else
size.
doesn't exist.
USA.
Sorry, I'll try
So
not to interrupt again.
no, you're fine. I'm getting a little goofy, so let me just chill. But I think the moon itself, because it's tidally locked to our planet, right? And there's been some
It's just so perfect.
theories that have went around about how Uranus broke up with another planet, like they crashed into each other, chunks flew
Maldek.
off. One of those chunks
Wait, no.
was the moon, and it formed around our atmosphere. And then over time of years, going around, it kind of just shaved down the imperfections. The idea, though, that yes, go ahead. I
There's a
don't know why
problem
you're
with that.
asking me. a question.
There's a problem with that theory because
Please tell me.
they've actually found out that the components of the moon don't match the natural components of the Earth, and they found that the moon dust, like the dust on the rocks on the moon, is older than the moon rocks themselves. Like the moon dust is older than the moon itself. So
Well, I
I don't.
mean, remember that doesn't have an atmosphere,
Yeah,
so it's going to catch everything.
but
You
like,
know,
how could the moon dust be older than the moon?
because what if there's rocks that come by that drop dust particles off?
That's part of the suggestion. That's part of the theory, is that they're suggesting that the moon dust is older than the moon because they brought materials from outside of the moon to use to build the moon, if it were a base.
Well, I've heard different theories about there being a place to go into, the dark
Yeah.
side of the moon having an issue,
The dark side of the moon
aliens.
with the psychic dude.
Yep, aliens telling human beings not to come back.
Like I said, we could go on for hours.
There is a plethora of conspiracy theories regarding the moon. Me personally, I just think it's a satellite. I don't think it's a hollow thing. I don't think there's a big laser grid system in there. If there is, okay, I'm wrong. Be a weird thing to be wrong about, but I'd be wrong. But I don't think the moon is anything but just a satellite that orbits Earth. I think it's, if anything, it could have been part of the terraforming. Put a rock satellite right there. I I would be interested in if what the moon was made of aids in the tidal process.
I could
You
look
see what
into
I'm
that.
saying? I'm kind of curious to see how those elements would match up
Like
against
the
water.
magnetism.
Yeah, stuff like that.
And Spider, what do you think?
Um, in ancient days, pre-life on this planet, the Earth was hit by another large object, potentially another planetoid, and the Earth did, in fact, spit out a part of itself, becoming the moon. I have read the opposite of what you've read about the moon being made of completely different materials.
Yeah.
I have read that they have brought back many samples from the early missions that show a pretty uncanny, shameless plug,
Mhm.
resemblance to materials here on Earth, and that it's very similar. But on the other hand, there is quite a few things there that aren't here on Earth because, again, it has no atmosphere.
And we
It's
can't
going to
trust
collect.
NASA.
Uh,
I think the
I think
over
it's hit or miss.
some things I'm sure it is a government
Agree to
organization, so
disagree.
there are things that they're not going to say. But I have watched rovers land on Mars live as they happened, and I don't think that was faked. I think that
Yeah, I don't
was
think it's faked at all.
pretty amazing, to be honest. And
Agreed.
to go back to another theory, and this is where I have to disagree with James about the flat Earth theory, and the fact that because there are also people that say we haven't gone to space, and if that were true, I think that secret would get out because Russia hates us,
China hates
China
us.
hates us,
Yep.
India is iffy about us, and all of those countries have sent things into space.
All of those countries have claimed to be in space too.
They have, well, sure, but they've also got footage, and they're also. Here's the thing: it's not necessarily that they would just claim that they've gotten there. It would that they would be, we got there, and those guys didn't. If we didn't go there, who do you think would be the first people to say, they never got there?
Russia,
It'd be
China.
Russia. It'd be China, and so
It would be right off the bat. They'd be like, the Americans did not make it to the moon at all.
the same thing with probes that have gone to Mars, that have gone to the moon. Soviet
Agreed.
probes, I believe, made it to Venus. I don't think we were the only people to manage to send something to Venus. I think at least one Soviet probe got data from Venus. And I think, again, if one or the other didn't get there, we'd be like, hey, you're blowing smoke. You've never been there. We can prove it because we've been there.
Yep.
Oh, well, you've never been there. I don't think they would coordinate on such a level.
Unless, playing devil's advocate here, nobody has been there. Because then if they were to claim that other people hadn't been there, it would make them look bad too. As James said in the chat, they got to keep the info secret so they can bilk the sheep out of money.
No.
Yeah, but I think at this point, somebody like Russia would be like, you know what? All bets are off. Nah, we haven't been there, but neither of those guys, nobody's been there. I think somebody would come out and just do it to make the other ones look bad.
Yeah.
And you have places like Mars where there's things that look like stuff our civilization has right now. That's why I don't. I'll never buy into the flat Earth theory.
I believe it too.
For
I was
me,
just playing devil's advocate.
For me, that's an impossible theory for me. And if people want to believe it, that's okay. I'm not saying that that's not a thing they can do. However, Mars being Mars, and like some of the mythology that comes with it, and some of the Greek gods, and some of the Gnostic ideologies, there's so much on these planets. That have to do with everything as a whole, because if you believe God created Earth, you believe God created every other planet in the solar system.
Yes.
You believe God created everything. And so
every other solar system.
Yes.
If that's what you believe.
Yeah, I do. And I do believe that. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't, it is what it is. But to me, because of our expansive universe, I think we've been to the moon. I think we've been probably to a couple other places. But we're not going to tell nobody. I think it would be more hiding than putting out there. Yes, we've been to Mars, but we can't tell anybody. Russia don't tell anybody. China don't tell nobody. It's something that that's secretive. However, what I do think is strange is that we haven't been back to the moon, not because we've never been there, but because maybe we saw something or we met with something
we
that
didn't like.
we were not supposed to meet with. Maybe remnants of the old flood era. Because that's the other thing we have to think about too. What if the Garden of Eden wasn't on Earth? What if it was on another planet, and that planet got blocked off, and we were unable to come back to that? So, obviously that's far-fetched, right? But I just think it's something that we can entertain. We could talk about it, but that's me and what I think of the moon. I think we've been there, and you know what? Here it is. I'll tell you why we probably haven't gone back, because it's probably not cost effective. There's probably
And there's nothing there.
and there's
Occam's
nothing
razor.
there. There's nothing there because it isn't cost effective. There's no special metals that we're getting off of there. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, we can't. Why are we going back there? We're going to study a moon rock again. We already did that. That's
Yeah.
my 2 cents.
Mm.
Take it for what
That's
it's
sort of my problem with modern society. We're more worried about money than we are knowledge.
Well, that's the thing too. It is not cheap to go to space.
No, it
it's
is not.
easy
Yeah.
to go.
The
to
fuel
space.
alone.
It is.
That's fair.
The fuel alone is expensive.
And you could probably fund more of that if you pulled funding from other things that we're currently spending money on. And if we didn't spend millions of dollars for sports teams and things like that, it's the same old argument that,
Yeah.
well, if we weren't paying for this, then we could go back to space. But you have a lot of people,
Take
a lot
care
of
of
people,
the
it's
sports.
space is there. There's
Yes.
nothing out there. What we
Yes.
have is here. Our food is
Yes.
here. Our entertainment is here.
Yep.
Everything we want is here. Why do we care so much about going to space? It's a
Because it's
lofty
inevitable
idea.
that the planet will be destroyed.
Yes,
No.
but that's not the common perception. That's what
Right.
I'm trying to say. The common perception for the bulk of the majority of people is that there's no point and it's expensive.
Yeah. Yes.
Whereas there are plenty of people who are interested in it, who are saying, no, we want to go there, we want to do things. And they're just constrained by the fact that the people who are making decisions are probably of the majority, who are just like, why should I bother
Yes.
with that? I'm trying to get reelected. I don't care about going to Mars. I need to make sure the people in my district are eating food and so they can elect me again, or that they're doing this so they can elect me again. And other countries have similar problems. And I'm sure there's at least one, I'm sure there's somebody high up in Russia who's like, oh, I want to go there and get Mars and build a giant laser and blast those stupid Americans. But what can you do? Everybody wants to be in control of space, but nobody has the focus and the means to go up and do it necessarily before anybody else. It's almost like a Cold War nuclear situation.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of thing. If you control space, you basically can control the planet.
The Cold War never ended. It only evolved.
So it's because they're talking about building nuclear platforms in space. Whether they're going to do it or not, who knows? But they talk about it. They talk about it all the time. I've played Call of Duty, where I played Battlefield. I've played all those where they have the things and they blast. But is that ever going to happen? Who knows? But they want to. And that's the thing. Nobody wants to be the one to have it, let the other guy have it first. So that's just how it is. It's a much more complicated issue than just, I think it's more that than there's something out there we're not supposed to find. I think to find something out there, it's not going to be in my lifetime. I think if we find something incredible out there that's another species or another civilization or some secret of how the universe works, it's going to be a long time before we find that.
All right. And that's our show. Rob, you want to take us out?
No, you're not
Oh,
very
okay.
attractive to me. I'm sorry. I'm not going to take either of you out. Didn't even ask what I thought at all. He said, "Hey, Rob, hurry up. Let's go. I got things to do and people to see." No,
I'm sorry. What do you think, Rob?
just to close out everything, I just think it's too expensive. That's all. It's too expensive to do it. The normal tax-paying citizen isn't like, yeah, I want to go to space, because there's nothing to do in space. Get a place where you can start putting like a space resort. People will get to getting, and then the getting will get to getting, and that's it. James, of course, we enjoy you being here, and I'll look those Bible verses up. Already pulled up 45:18. Also, next week, Spider in his spidering, we'll be talking about unholy locations. So you're going to want to check that out. Then on the 7th will be the end of our first season. And that will be on sacred sites. And I'll be talking about that. And then we're going to be on hiatus for a while just to kind of recharge. And then we'll be back on September 3rd for another great show. So next week, Spider and Unholy Locations. You can check us out at our respective social media platforms. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, have you seen an alien? Is your brother working with an alien? Is your brother an alien? You can hit us up at This Uncanny Earth at gmail.com. So This Uncanny Earth at gmail.com. Hit us up with all your strange sightings, or if you took a picture with the Loch Ness Monster riding on its back, do that and make that happen. You can also find us at uncannymedia.net, the premier place to go for everything uncanny. If you have not, get over there. What are you doing? Stop goofing. Get over there. Anyways, for me, for Spider, for our host tonight, Steven, why be boring when you can be uncanny? We will see you amazing folks next week. Have a good one.